What is up, everybody? It's me, Duke Farley, back at it again here on Lost at Sea. And tonight I'm joined by one of my favorite guests on the channel. I am joined by the one and only Jabbar. Jabbar, how are you? What's been going on, man?
Just living life. I'm pretty good, really enjoying the season, and I'm very glad that you invited me to talk about these two boots.
Jabbar, we got a couple of secret roommates going into the jury house this week, with Eli and Taylor back to back. You know, I think the second double elimination here, but a lot to talk about here. What draws your attention first?
Oh my gosh. Between the idle play, the safety without power, the me being scared that the live gamers were going to dominate the season to like what has happened. It's just like it was the craziest hour and a half of Ascendance Live.
Bar, we were talking during when the episode was coming to an end, and we were kind of, like, oh my goodness, are we seeing, people sacrifice some things for Taylor again here? And ultimately Taylor goes home with the safety without power play from Michael. So let's run through this vote here first, because I think this is a very interesting one. The first one was pretty interesting as well, but um what do you make of this move? This move with the safety without power that Michael does?
I love it. And quite frankly, I do think that it was necessary. Um, Even though Michael got the result that he wanted without Taisha being there, I'm not convinced that like people don't blindside Taisha if she is an option that's on the table. So I completely respect it. I get it, and I will be wearing my Michael Davis Stan. I have my Michael Davis Stan card in my wallet now, um, because after this episode, yeah, he made me a believer.
Do you think that if he does not, so you think that if he does not play this on her, that she might get her name thrown out there and potentially voted?
Absolutely. I think that it was interesting, just the whole behavior of the round, the fact that Rachel and Erica were like willing to vote for each other without considering other avenues at first, and then Taisha being like the other avenue that was pushed by Chris and Taylor. Um, and it seemed like they were actually pretty receptive to that, at least from what it looked like. I genuinely think that they probably, at least one of them, votes for Taisha. And that's all that's needed to give uh, you know, the other side a chance.
Yeah. Because in my opinion, I was like, I did not think that Taisha was going to be garnering votes here. I thought that he was playing it in terms of get Taisha out of this vote because they're incentivized. He wants potentially Chris as the swing vote, not to vote out Rachel. Or yeah, not to vote out Rachel, which is what Chris G and Taylor end up doing. So I thought if he was thinking maybe play it on Taisha, get her out of the vote. That way, Chris flips over to our side and votes out Taylor. But I did not even think of the option of Taisha here.
I was very afraid when Rachel and Chris G were when Chris G was like, "Oh, we could do Taisha." And I was like, oh my gosh, they literally could. Because if Erica and Rachel are so distraught about potentially voting for each other, those are the two votes that they realistically need. And this could happen. So I was very afraid of that. Um, and I was also afraid that Michael and Taisha would be the two that were like left out. I did suspect that they would tell Chris, but like I also don't know Christopher's like position in terms of like moving forward.
Yeah. And so ultimately, we see Taylor get eliminated here. This definitely opens up the game a lot, right? Because Taylor was very well insulated with a lot of people at this vote, particularly. She still has her original partner in the game up to this point, Adam. Um, Kind of unfortunate to see Taylor go here. She looked like she was positioned for a deep run, right?
Absolutely. I think that if Taylor makes it to the individuals, she's making a deep run in the game. It's just something about her. Like people are willing to, I'm not necessarily going to say fall on a sword, but like people definitely want to be Taylor's friend or are Taylor's friend. And like I think that that could have propelled her to at least Final Four had she survived this one.
Yeah. Jabbar, what do you think of, you know, Rachel having a poor, kind of challenge performance and then immediately going into the voting period saying, you know what, vote me out?
So, as somebody who's played a live game now, I get it. I get feeling like you're the reason why the team has lost and just being completely over it. I completely get that. I think that the difference here is that, like, as opposed to Survivor, this is Ascendance. You're not tethered to these people for the rest of the game. Like, so what? Like, especially when you hear Adam Michael Kennedy like saying that he was trying to throw the competition. Like these people, like you're getting close to the individual phase anyway. It doesn't matter. And yeah, so like I understand her feelings. I was just hoping, and I'm glad that like she did not fall on the sword towards the end. I just think that she kind of needed some time to like process feeling like she was the reason why they lost.
Yeah. Yeah. And how about Erica, saying, you know what, if you're gonna, fall on the sword, let me fall on the sword for you. Kind of crazy.
Okay, so this was the one that I didn't get as much. Um, like I get it from like knowing Erica's personality, like, she's very giving and that right and she has a great connection with Rachel. But like realistically speaking, I was watching this thinking like neither one of you technically have to go home. Like it doesn't have to be her or you. You two just need two other people to vote with you, which is what happened. So like I didn't have as much empathy for Erica in terms of like gameplay, but like I got it knowing who Erica is like outside of this. Um it was very interesting for sure,
Yeah.
especially seeing her arc from season one and us talking about this like 2 years ago after it happened to like,
Yeah.
now.
I'm hoping that this last vote here, capped out the night and everybody can get some rest and kind of, rejuvenate and,
Yeah,
you know, get into the next day strong.
yeah,
Um,
I agree.
Jab Jabbar, we have another vote in the beginning of this round that a lot of different votes thrown in a lot of different directions. Eli is the one that ultimately gets the boot, but there are two idols or pendants. I'm sorry. Nicole's gonna kill me with that. Two pendants played. Christopher and Michael. Michael obviously had a public one. And both correctly played because they both received two votes, and Eli is the one to go home. But we also see Taisha get a vote from Rachel and Chris G get a vote from Taisha. What is going on here? Break this down. Like, I don't even know what's going on in this one.
I also don't even know what's going on. I will say that I really enjoy Eli as a character. He became one of my favorites. Um, However, this was such a needed move to kind of open up the game for. I think that this is actually the beginning of the end for Taylor, actually knowing like how connected they are. And this was a big blow to like, you know, her game as well. And it's unfortunate, but it needed to happen, right? I think that it was interesting that people were willing to vote for Michael after like confirming and reconfirming that he would be playing it. But I think that the people who voted for Michael kind of wanted to absolve themselves of like anybody else going home because they had good connections with them. Um, I think that the people who were willing to vote for Christopher probably view Christopher as like second lowest after Michael. So like if we're not gonna do Michael because he has an idol, then we have to do Christopher. The people who did Eli were kind of like, on the outs realistically anyway. And then
Yeah.
you have the vote throwers who are going to be the people who, vote with their heart realistically. So I don't know. It's still a lot to like, but
Lots of process. It seems like Rachel is one like back to back, throne votes here. Not, kind of playing by, the seat of her pants here. Why do you think she throws her vote on to Taisha here? It's kind of came out of nowhere for me at least.
um, so it could have been she could have been working on a jury vote, right? She
Yeah.
could have been expecting the idol. So I think that Rachel works on good adrenaline, the wildness of last round work with the throne vote, sending that vote into whatever the case may be. So then, if it worked then, surely there's a chance that it can work now if I know that a pendant is going to be played. Um, and I think that that could have played into her mind as well. Like, why put your vote on somebody who you know is going to be possibly getting votes and possibly playing a pendant, but also like I'm going to vote for somebody who I don't have the best connection with. So like even if it doesn't go according to plan, then nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah. And to be fair, she was safe at this one. She was the captain at this vote, so really couldn't have backfired on her. Um,
Yeah.
so Michael, I want to talk about Michael because he was a big player, power player. Double powers this episode by Michael. He plays his public pendant that he got from Josh the previous round, and then he plays, safety without power. Are you concerned? Are you concerned for Michael moving forward? If we're in individuals at this point, are people coming for him?
Oh, his days are numbered. His days are numbered if he does not go on uh, on an immunity run. I don't think that he should be targeted soon. Just looking at the numbers and like the layout, but I feel like overestimated part of these games is the flashier gameplay. And he has it at this point. So like, people like him, honestly, people like Rachel as well, you have to take them out soon, is probably what the rest of these people are thinking. And I think that Michael is first up on the chopping block.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like he might need to go on a long immunity run here in the individual stage, but he's not too bad at competition, so maybe he can get a couple before and make things a little bit more interesting. I don't know. It might be, it's a long way,
I agree.
at this point, but it would be fun.
I agree.
Jabbar, we see, this game has been shaken up. I want to talk about Adam. Adam is somebody that we talked about last episode, not getting his way a couple of votes. And then he sees Eli, who is somebody he wanted out, and then Taylor, his partner, get eliminated. Do you think Adam has, legs to get to the end at this point, or, him seeing his number one ally get eliminated? Do you think that's going to really hinder him?
I think that it's definitely going to hinder him. I didn't really understand why he would have. I mean, I get why he would want Eli out. I don't get why like it was such a pressing thing this early because that's a
Yeah.
number for your number one ally. Like, you all are all tangentially connected. Um, which if Eli is like the start of the end for Taylor, I have to assume that Taylor leaving is like the start of the end for Adam. So I do think that his role here is going to be a little more difficult than it would be for him if Taylor was there, coupled with honestly his personality. Like Adam was, dare I say, safe, but like was still in all of the conversations, like still putting himself out there to a point where like you literally could have just like played it. I get it, she's your partner, but like now you're kind of guilty by association with the things that have happened. And so if the people who voted together to take Taylor out, plus Taisha, who didn't have a vote, decide to band together, they might target him now. So I mean, I think that he's in dangerous waters as well. But if the pendulum swings against people like Michael and Rachel first, I can see him making a deep run.
Yeah. which I think is probably where most of people's eyes are right now around Michael and Rachel. But Adam definitely has been pretty vocal these past few rounds, which has been not getting his way, but maybe he gets his way, sooner rather than later. I want to talk about, Chris. Chris plays, the two half pendants that he got from Erica. He needed it because he would have, it would have been a tie between himself and Eli had he not. Um, what do you think about Chris? Do you think Chris is longed for the game, or do you think now that, or what do you think? What are you thinking about Christopher?
I think Chris is long for the game. I'm afraid that Chris, if Chris gets to the end, Chris could lose to a bitter jury, um, or a jury that just does not understand Chris's game in its entirety. Because I think Chris is one of the more mellow people, not vocal, and I think that those type of personalities get overshadowed by more of the flashier gameplay or more of the louder players. But realistically, on paper at least, once again, you have the Michael Davises, the Rachels. Like, if people are gonna target the people who voted out Taylor, those people have flashier games, I think, and thus will be targeted first. But if the people who voted Taylor stick together, then they have another 2 or 3 easy rounds, which continues Chris's longevity. So I think Chris is in a prime spot to be around for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think getting through these couple these two rounds was huge for Chris, and I think now that he has, like you said, these targets in front of him, it might be a little bit smooth sailing for a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, Stacy's so much fun this episode. She gets called out for saying Taylor's name, and she, distinctly says, "I did not do that. I did not do that, people." And so Stacy, what a story so far, Stacy was her partner was the first person eliminated. She keeps getting these different partners, and here she is, right at the glimpse of the individual stage. Stacy, do you think she can win this thing?
Oh, I need Stacey to win. She's the last person left on my draft. Um, but no, I think that Stacey is another person who, in my opinion, is in a really good spot to make a deep run. Because once again, if the people who voted Taylor out are targeting, I think that they target Adam Michael Kennedy or Chris G before they target Stacey. And I just, it's something to be said about like the Black Widow of like partners, like being Stacey, like surviving like 3 or 4 partner changes up until this point. Um, and I don't really think that she's on anybody's radar. And like the fact that she did not cast a vote at that last elimination is going to really pay dividends because I think that there's going to be a little bit of blowback from what happened. So I think she'll be around for a while.
Yeah, the only person that I know is somewhat not vibing with Stacey at this point is Rachel. Rachel mentioned that Stacey, in one of these votes, that Stacey was somebody that voted for her and kind of lied to her up until it. So if Rachel gets her way, I feel like she might go for Stacey here soon, but it seems like Rachel might be playing more defensive at this point than offensive. So I think Stacey's in a
Yeah.
great spot.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about Rachel and I guess Erica too, to an extent is, you know, the other side voted for Rachel, but I think if they want to get out of the minority, I have a sneaking suspicion that their best connections are with Rachel and Erica. And I think that because of such feelings, I don't see Michael and Taisha and Chris targeting Stacy. So then it would be Chris G or Adam. And then on the other side, if Chris G and Adam are gonna swing Erica and Rachel back to their side, they're also not gonna target Stacy. They're gonna target the other people that voted out Taylor. So I think that because of those two, and it's just me guessing, of course, because of these feelings, I think that Rachel and Stacy won't be at odds, at least for the near future.
Yeah. Um, do you think that Rachel and Erica potentially entering into a individual stage being the only original partners is going to hinder them at all?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think it should just yet. I think that people should string them along and cut them at like 6-5 or 5-4 or whatever the case may be. But if you're the last duo standing, everybody's staring at you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because we see, right before this pending individual stage, two of the three pairs get broken up right before. So writing
Mhm.
might be on the wall there.
I agree. I agree. Yeah.
And Jabbar, the only person that I feel like we haven't spoken about here is, the person that returned back into the game from the buyback, which is Chris G. Have you been enjoying Chris G's second chance here? Do you think he's making the most of it?
I think that he is making the most of it. To be honest, I really like the way he came back into the game. Being willing to bury the hatchet regardless of how upset he was at, some of the women, which is kind of ironic considering, like, they went against whatever the case may be. Um, and Taylor went home. I am very excited that he got blindsided in this vote, but he survived because the last time, like, he was blindsided by a vote, he was the one who went home. So I'm very intrigued to see how he's gonna play, like, and recover now that Taylor's gone. But overall, like, I think that he's had a pretty solid return to the game. I'm just curious to see how he's going to like recover.
Yeah, I'm interested too. But Jabbar, there are no more pendants in the game up to right now that we know of. A lot of powers have gotten played. My last question to you is who is going to win this game? If you had to predict right now who's going to win, not who you want to win, because I know who you want to win, but who do you think is going to win and why? It could be who you
Barring
want to.
okay, can I give a top two for both?
Give top two.
Okay, so who I want to win, biasly speaking, Stacy and Taisha, icons. Um,
Of course.
but who I think is going to win. So I think Erica has a good shot to win unless the jury hates, um, you know, how emotional she has gotten this last round. Then I think that that leads me to possibly Christopher as a potential winner. And even though I said that he could lose to like different types of juries, just objectively speaking, I think that he's very well positioned at this point. Um, and I think regardless of how a jury might feel about his game, I think if he gets there with select people, I think that he can pull it out.
Jabbar, say Chris and Erica make it to the end. What do you think of, well, who do you think would take that? And let me just hear what you think. You keep mentioning he could lose, Christopher could lose to a bitter jury. And I'm looking at this jury right now. We have Grace, we have Eric, we have Josh. Now we have Eli and Taylor. So it's filling up pretty soon, pretty quickly. Um, do you think this jury is going to be bitter?
So when I say bitter, I guess bitter has a negative connotation, but I'm referring to bitter in terms of like what you did to send somebody home. Like, realistically speaking, his vote sent Taylor home. Like, if she's bitter towards that, she could be. Um, Ultimately, his decision put Adam Michael Kennedy and Chris G on the wrong side of history at this point. They could be bitter about that situation. So, like, I think that bitter in terms of like what you did to royally screw somebody over, as opposed
Yeah.
to like, we all just don't like him or anything like that. And I think that those type of situations, and I, and this is why I think Chris and Erica can kind of fall into the same category of like they're so like nice and likable that like if they do something that's like against what you expect from their character, it kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth about them. Um, and I think that because of their personalities, they could fall victim to that. Um, if those two are in the end together, though, I just don't know. Um,
Yeah.
I I think that it goes back to what we talked about with season one with Erica. I don't. I think that Chris could get it over Erica. Um, and I think that if Erica loses, this round might be a reflection of that. If people aren't happy with her being willing to give up her spot when she wasn't an option to go home.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting point that you make in terms of Chris and Erica. They're kind of very chill, kind of, really likable, kind of low key players. So when they screw you over, it kind of feels a little bit worse than say like, an Adam or a
Absolutely.
Josh, kind of people that are out there that are
People,
like saying, I'm willing to do it to your face.
yeah, yeah, it hurts worse from the people you don't expect it from than the people you do, for sure.
Yeah. Well, Jabbar, I'm so excited to see how this one shakes out, but so happy to get to talk to you about it again this season. Yeah, I appreciate you, man.
No problem. Thank you for having me.